Hit it as soon as it hit the water. That's a good one. Hey, I'm KastKing Pro Brent Chapman here. A topwater bait when you didn't even know it, right? Pretty fish. Okay, so we're throwing a big topwater bait here in the fall, and just a great way to catch them. But you know, rod and reel are so important as well. And the rod I'm using here is it's a KastKing Speed Demon Pro. This is a 7/6 swim bait rod, but it's got the right tip action and backbone for these big topwater baits. You know, you can see I'm making really long casts, and even that, when these big fish bite it, I've got the leverage to, you know, to get these fish in. And I've paired it up with a KastKing Bassmaster Elite reel. This is a 8-to-1 gear ratio reel. This is you know, a higher gear ratio reel is important because, you know, one, you're working this topwater bait pretty fast, but two, when those fish bite it, you want to be able to take up a lot of line in a hurry. And you know, you don't want to overwork yourself and wear yourself out. You know, if you're throwing this on a slower gear ratio reel just that much faster, you've got to reel the bait to keep it up on the surface. And then I've got this paired up with 50-pound KastKing Cast Pro braid, and you know, that's one thing that I see a lot of people do wrong. They use too light of a line. 50 or even 65-pound braid for these type of topwaters is what you want, because you know, when you hook a big monster bass, especially in heavy cover, you want every advantage you can have. And you know, there's nothing more of a heartbreak than losing a big one that breaks your line or something. But these baits can handle that heavy of a line. The rods, the reels can handle it. So you want to give yourself you know, the biggest advantage you can to put these fish in the boat. And with this rod reel setup and line setup, I've got the best advantage I can get. So having a high-speed reel is really important too, because the big key is keeping your bait in the strike zone. And you know, I can work this bait all the way back to the boat, and sometimes you're going to catch fish. But for me, I prefer to keep it in the strike zone, and usually that's within a couple feet of the key pieces of cover. Here it's the shoreline and these occasional bushes. But you know, so I throw that bait up there. I work it along the shoreline to you know, maybe 10 feet out. But from there, if a fish hasn't hit it, I want to reel that bait up really fast and get my bait back in the strike zone. If I do that throughout an entire day, typically I'm going to catch more fish because I'm keeping that bait in the strike zone longer. So get it to there, just reel it in fast, and fire it up back up there to get it right back in that strike zone where the majority of your strikes are going to come. You know, and that's not always the case, and that's something just a guy has to experiment with every day on the water. But you know, I've found out day in and day out, for me, keeping that bait in the strike zone as long as possible is the key. So you know, I can waste a lot of time working that bait all the way back to the boat there, and then occasionally you'll catch a fish. So it's not that it's wrong, it's just, you know, it's a percentage deal. And oh my goodness, how about that for a strike? And he missed it. So okay, here's a really good tip when you're fishing topwaters. You always want to have a follow-up bait. I've got a jig right here. So when you have a fish that blows up on your topwater bait, you know there's a fish there, and he's looking to eat something. He's a hungry fish. So it's always good to have a follow-up bait, you know, a jig or soft plastics or a stick worm, because then they'll come back a lot of times and you can catch them just like that. So that's why it's always good to have a follow-up bait. You know where that fish is, and you know, we had him, he came up, missed my topwater lure, but pitched the jig right back in there, and boom, another one in the boat. So, you know, a lot of times people associate topwater fishing with shallow, beating the bank or the edges of shallow cover or whatever. But, you know, here in this little lake we're fishing now, there's a lot of brush piles and stuff out here, or docks or something. Fish will suspend around those pieces of cover. And just because you can't see out here, there's brush piles right under the surface of the water. And a lot of times these big fish, they like to suspend over this deep water. And, you know, a big loud topwater bait is sometimes a great way to catch those big ones. So just out here trying to entice one of these big ones to bite. So here we've got a brush pile out here in the middle of the lake, and you know, it's about 10 foot deep around that. But hey, this lake's got a lot of fish in it. without a doubt, you know there's some fish in there. So great way to possibly entice a big fish to bite is throw a topwater bait right over the top of that stuff and see if you can get one to come up and react. A lot of times, you know, it may be 10 foot deep there, but they'll sit right below the surface and be suspended, and sometimes you can get those fish to react. You gotta love some topwater fishing. Come here, fish. Oh yeah. Beauty. Guys, I'm Brent Chapman. Have a great day.